So welcome back to Design Ahead with me, Jake Fernandes, and today I want to try something a little bit different, hence the green lights behind me. So the past couple of episodes have been all about cutting edge topics like AI and sustainability, but I want a few episodes to be a bit more of a personal perspective, and I feel like I've learned quite a lot over my relatively short career in the industry, but also my life building up to this point. I think in the first episode I spoke a lot about how I was a YouTuber when I was quite young, sort of 13, 14, how I then got into music and a lot of contact points with different industries and different art forms. And I think there's a lot that I've learned that I'd love to pass on to other people who may be struggling to really find a career that they enjoy or feel a little bit stuck in where they are. So yeah, let's try something a little bit different today. And today I'm going to be talking about how I became a UX designer, but in the perspective of how I found what I wanted to do as a career. So this is applicable to everybody, not just UX designers, researchers, or people that work within my field. I think the way in which I found out what I wanted to do applies to anybody trying to find out the career that they want to have. You know, I kind of went through school, not really sure about what I wanted to do. I had an idea, then I followed through on that idea, got to university and realized that was completely not what I want to be doing. So dropped out of university, found another course, second time lucky, it was perfect. It was exactly what I wanted. And the kind of setbacks that I had and how I managed to persevere through them, or how I managed to find another route and found essentially the path that I wanted to take in the end. So I think regardless of who you are, you know, you could be sort of 17, 18, listen to this podcast thinking about your university course you might be doing or your apprenticeship that you might be taking on. Or you might be someone who's a lot older, you know, kind of stuck in a job or an industry that you're not enjoying, maybe something that you found you didn't really want to do, but you kept on doing because you didn't know what the alternative was. I think it's very important just to mention that it's never too late to switch a career stream. I'm sure you've seen all of those Facebook posts about Morgan Freeman being in his 40s or 50s and finally becoming a breakthrough actor. There's so many people that didn't know what they were doing until late in life and finally found something. So never feel like it's too late and you're trapped in something that you don't want to be doing. I know it's very easy for me as a 28-year-old to say, but there are people who have managed to find a way to make something that they want to do work and ultimately find their dream career. Back in school, I was in the top set for everything. So, you know, I was quite lucky that my intelligence allowed me to get a one-up on obviously a lot of people and found school a little bit easier than most. But the interesting thing is that I was sort of predicted straight A's and ended up getting straight B's. And I really struggled to revise for exams. I kind of struggled in exams in a way, although I think I still did quite well ultimately. But putting it into perspective, I did underachieve and I didn't know it at the time. And I was diagnosed at 25 with ADHD with inattentive attention, which basically means that if I'm trying to do something that I'm not interested in, I will find it extremely difficult to get invested. So some people will just persevere and really study and knuckle down and find a way to pass exams that way. Whereas with me, if I wasn't interested in the subject, I would find it impossible to really sit down and revise. And even if I did, nothing would go in. But on the flip side of that, if there's something I am really interested in, I will dedicate my whole life to doing it. And it's something that I've learned to harness over the years. And especially when I was diagnosed with it at 25 a couple of years ago, it was a very eye-opening moment for me. And it's something that I've been able to harness with music and with design as well. Things that I'm really passionate in, I've been able to really succeed and put in the extra hours where maybe some other people wouldn't. But that's a story for another episode, and I would like to talk about it a lot more. But back to me in school, I knew I wanted to go down the university route, so going to college after I finished school, and then of course going to university and then getting a graduate job. But while I was at school, I didn't know what I wanted to do. I knew I had some interest in maths and IT and a bit of English, but I wasn't really sure on what path I wanted to take at that point, which again, a lot of people don't. And that's the problem with school, is you're kind of forced into taking something that you've got no idea if you're going to like it in a couple of years. But what I really did enjoy after school was creating YouTube videos. So as I said in the first episode, about 12, 13, 14, I started to make YouTube videos and ended up building a channel with about 11,000 subscribers, which was quite a lot at the time. I was really connected throughout the community in FIFA, which is where I created content, and I absolutely love to write, edit, record videos, create the thumbnails, create the graphics, and even help out other creators with their plans and their graphics as well. And what I didn't know at the time is this was setting a baseline for what I wanted to do as a career. Again, being a 14-year-old, you're not thinking about what I'm going to be doing in 10 years or 15 years as a career in sort of post-university. Never mind thinking about, oh, is there a course I could do around this? You're kind of shoehorned into school and just passing your GCSEs and then figuring it all out later. And at the same time, there wasn't any jobs to do with YouTube. It was either become a successful YouTuber with 1 million subscribers, because it was insanely difficult to make any money unless you were one of the top creators on the platform. Like, people weren't quitting jobs and becoming creators at that point. It was, unless you were extremely successful, YouTube would always be a side project. And also there were no jobs related to YouTube. Video editing wasn't a thing. You had TV editors, Hollywood editors, that kind of video production. But in terms of YouTube, there was nobody really paying for editors. You look now when you've got Mr. Beast, who's got teams of tens or hundreds of people writing his episodes, creating thumbnails and graphics and titles. He's got a full team or multiple teams doing this stuff. But at that point, there was nothing for anybody. And I didn't fancy myself as a film editor either. I didn't really want to go down that route. I think I knew I really enjoyed YouTube, but I didn't watch TV, I didn't really watch films, so getting involved in that industry seemed a bit foreign to me. And again, I just didn't want to go down the route of being shoehorned into being a film editor or being a video editor. I really like doing a bit of everything. I love doing a bit of graphic design, doing a bit of writing, recording, acting in a way, or whatever this is. So I didn't want to be shoehorned into one thing at that point in time either. So fast forward a couple of years after I completed my GCSEs and I was going into college. So I picked a few subjects that I really enjoyed or wanted to do. I picked maths because I was really good at maths at school. I got an A, couple marks off an A star, so it was definitely my best subject that I really enjoyed. I did psychology because it was something I was really interested in. My mum had a degree in psychology and she got me really invested in that subject area. And I also did IT diploma because my dad had done web development a little bit and kind of, again, fudge stuff in there, but it got me really interested. And again, it was more multimedia, so it was a little bit attached to this kind of stuff I was doing for YouTube, but on a more professional level. So those are my three subjects. The IT counted as two. I think it was a BTEC diploma, so it counted as two positions at AS. Anyone from the UK who's been to college, you know that you kind of have to pick 4 AS subjects. So IT being 2 of them meant that I only had to pick 2 others, being maths and psychology. And so I felt I was narrowing down what I wanted to do at this point, still had no idea, and YouTube was wearing off on me at this point. I wasn't as invested as I was at school. I started to go out and have more of a social life, becoming sort of 17, 18 years old, doing all the things that they do, going out drinking and partying on the weekends, and just in a way growing out of YouTube, or maybe just realizing that it was passing me by a bit and just didn't have the interest for it anymore. So that was something that was a bit out of the window, as trying to become a successful YouTuber. When I was at college, I absolutely loved the IT diploma that I did and did very well, got 2 distinction stars. Whereas with maths, which was a subject that I loved at school, I ended up falling behind a little bit. I think I came out with a D at AS level, partially because I knew I could drop it, but again, the same problems I was having with exams. I just couldn't revise. I really wasn't interested. My lecturers weren't great. And psychology as well, I did enjoy, but I couldn't see myself as a psychologist or doing a course like that at university. So IT was essentially what I wanted to do. And at this point, I knew I could get a good grade and apply for some good top universities. And I was focused in on getting myself into a good course at a good university. So the one I chose was computer science at Newcastle University. So they were a top 20, top 15 university at the point, Russell Group as well. So anybody from the UK and knows a bit about universities will know there's like the elite collection, which are the Russell Group, and kind of just forced into this way of thinking that you need to be getting a good degree from a good university to secure a good job, which is farcical at this point. But I went down the route and chose computer science as I thought that fit in with what I was doing in college. But the problem was at college I was doing more web development, I was doing some animation using fireworks and Flash, and it was a bit of everything. It was a bit like a multimedia course rather than a computer science course, which I ended up doing at Newcastle Uni. And so I went into doing computer science, and immediately in the first week or two I realised this was totally not what I wanted to do. It was very much the development side. I was doing further maths. I was again struggling to get invested in the course and just really did not want to do it, and that's where I realized that I kind of picked the wrong course for university. And there was a point in time towards December, I knew I was probably going to be dropping out at that point, and we had a Java exam. So I went into the exam, didn't really revise or anything. I had barely done any preparation before that as well, and came out with 4 out of 50 in the exam. And at that point, I just kind of laughed. I think a lot of people might be a bit shocked or upset that they get such a low score at a computer science degree level. But for me, I just laughed because I knew this was not what I wanted to do. And I'm glad that I had the confidence to say that to myself and ultimately drop out of that course, because I could have very easily stayed in, suffered, really struggled, probably mentally, trying to push through and get that course completed and maybe not even come out with a good grade at the end of it, and no opportunities because I maybe failed or got a very bad grade. So I'm very proud of myself that I was able to take that step back. I was very lucky and fortunate to have supportive parents that would take me back in as well. And essentially it was time to reevaluate and figure out what I wanted to do, because I thought I knew and I didn't. So I moved back home at Christmas, and I'm still working my part-time bar job, which I absolutely love at this point. And it was great people, working in a music venue on the bars and being able to see all the live acts and again, getting more involved in music. And it was time for me to reevaluate and see what I wanted to do next. There was no permanent opportunities really at the music venue. It was maybe one management opportunity might come up in the future, but it wasn't something that had a clear pathway, so I knew I couldn't do that. And it allowed me to reflect on what I was doing at college and what I really enjoyed, which was web development, interactive media, that kind of stuff, not more on the back-end development and Java and all of that. So I looked for courses around the Northeast. I also looked for apprenticeships and just tried to figure out if there was anything in web development that I could start to do. So there was a web development course at Northumbria University, which, going back to the rankings, which again I've got my own opinions on, some people might really think that they are quite valuable. And again, you know, if you're going to an Oxford or a Cambridge or an Imperial College, top ranking universities, it's going to look great on your CV, but is it worth the trade-off of feeling miserable? For me, absolutely not. And if you love a course like that at a great university, you have hit the jackpot. I will 100% admit that. But for me, I needed to come out of that mindset of thinking I need to get a top degree at a top uni. So Northumbria University was about 50th, 60th at the time and had a web development course. So I was like, brilliant, let's apply for that. Found out that it was being discontinued after that year. So that again put me a little bit back to the drawing board. I inquired about graphic design. That was a bit of a weird one because I think a lot of people who do graphic design at university have a background in art or media studies, whereas I didn't do either. I couldn't even draw stickman. So it was very much digital art for me. And even still, I wouldn't classify myself as an artist. I was a designer in a way, but not in the traditional sense of a graphic designer. And then fortunately, they said, you're probably better suited for a course we've got called Interactive Media Design, which was later rebranded as Interaction Design. And at that point, I was looking through the course and I was really liking what I saw. All of the modules were perfect. I really felt invested in them and they matched up to not only what I was doing at college, but what I was doing with YouTube. And it felt very varied and it just seemed like the perfect thing for me. So I went for an interview at the university to see if it was worth me applying for a place, and I got it. So in February, I had managed to find and secure myself a spot on the next year's cohort for interaction design, and working my bar job for the next few months just to kind of tie me by and keep me busy, and then going interrailing with the money I'd saved up as well, which was fantastic, and just hit the ground running. I absolutely loved the people I lived with, my social circles at that university, and the course itself was really, really interesting. So it was a false start for me. That's kind of what we say in our family. The fact that I went to Newcastle, I really didn't like what I was doing, didn't really gel well with the people around me as well. I think it was sort of a byproduct of the fact I wasn't enjoying my time there. But then was lucky enough to take that step back and take a year to figure stuff out and find another path, which perfectly worked for me. And I'm so glad that I did take that leap. So the next couple of years went by and I ended up getting a first class degree, which is the highest mark I could get. And yeah, then it was time to look for a graduate job after that. So I went back home for a couple of months and started applying for anything and everything in the Northeast that would allow me to work within the industry. So at this point, I didn't fully know what job I wanted, whether that was going to be UX design, user research, UI design, interaction design. There are all of these different terminologies floating about, and I didn't really know what I was. I'd done a lot of stuff at university. It was very varied and I had a bit of experience in everything. And ultimately, I interviewed for a couple of positions, didn't quite get it, but they weren't necessarily graduate positions. They were just blanket UX design or user research, and lost out because of experience in the end, which is absolutely fine. But lucky for me, there was a graduate opportunity at a company called Capita, which was at the time merging with a local agency called Orange Bus. I went through the interview process, met my then-to-be manager, had a great interview, really enjoyed what I was doing. But I did express a little bit of interest in UX design. So the position I went for was a creative designer, which again to me was like not too sure what that meant. But I went for an interview for creative, then to UX, and it was decided that I sat more on the creative side as I was quite like UI based. And yeah, within 6-7 months, I managed to secure myself a graduate job. Again, do feel very fortunate, but the hard work really did pay off. I put a lot of time and effort into my portfolio. I did a lot of research into the companies I was applying for and really focused in on trying to get myself into the industry as soon as I possibly could. And from there, it's just all being so positive. I've been through a lot. We went through a redundancy process within the first 6 months, which I came out the other end having my job, fortunately. We went through a complete team and company restructure, company mergers. It was pretty turbulent, but the people I worked with and the work I was doing was really what I wanted to do. So that motivated me to keep going, and it's kind of bonded through trauma in a way. But yeah, over the next few years, I would move from being a graduate into junior/midweight. Then I changed careers, moved to another consultancy company called CGI, which I'm currently working for as a senior designer. And then a couple of years later, this year, I was promoted to lead designer. So in a 4-year span, I was able to go from a complete newbie graduate to leading design teams. So it's been a great few years and I've really enjoyed it. And I do hope that some people can relate to points of this story or can be inspired to maybe rethink about what they're doing if there's something that they're not really enjoying at the moment. And I'd love to save this for another episode, but talking about how I went from graduate to lead designer in just 4 years, which, typically speaking, if you go back to the old school way of putting years against roles, it would be a sort of 10-15 year process to get to that point. So I'm going to cut it there. I do hope this was quite an interesting episode. I really enjoyed making this one because, again, I didn't have to do a lot of thorough research and really ensure that I was getting my points right. It was quite from the heart and from my own experiences. And as I say, I've got a lot of different experiences that I feel would be quite valuable for a lot of people. Talking about being diagnosed late on with ADHD and how that impacted me and how it made me understand the way I work and the way I am. as well as, of course, becoming a lead designer in just 4 years was something that I think I learned a lot of lessons in quite quickly and was able to adapt and take on opportunities to get me to that point. So yeah, let's see how it goes in the future episodes, but do let me know in the comments if there's anything you would like me to look at or investigate, any guests that you think would be quite interesting to have on. I'm really open to suggestions and ideas. But as always, drop a rating, drop a follow, subscribe, wherever you're watching and listening to this podcast. Reach out to me on LinkedIn, Instagram, TikTok. We've got all of them now, and I will catch you guys in the next episode.